Welcome to the 33rd Ward Aldermanic Forum. My name is Carol Maher, and I'm president of the People of East Albany Park Block Club. It's so great to be in Bateman Elementary's beautiful auditorium. And I'd like to introduce the principal of Bateman, Georgia Davos Vitas.
Good evening. Well, welcome to Bateman Elementary School. My name is Georgia Davos Vitas, and I'm the new principal of this wonderful school. I'm so excited to see so many community organizations and have the privilege of hosting you at our school. So please feel free to visit our website at batemanschool.org for upcoming events. We would love to see you there. So again, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Georgia. Since September, neighborhood groups from throughout the ward have been planning this event, and we're thrilled that you've joined us tonight. Recognition from each group is due to Shiloh Bisnet, Jess Bugulis from the Albany Park Neighbors, Emily Taylor and Jennifer Kelly from Avondale Neighborhood Association, Gretchen Helmrich and John Friedman of the Horner Park West Neighborhood Association, Michelle DeLong and Doug North from Irving Park East Neighborhood Association, Athene Karras of the Ravenswood Banner Improvement Association, Misha Mann, Douglas Pancoast, and the board from the residents of Irving Park, and Justin Paulisian and Roya Mernush from the West River Park Improvement Association. Thank you to you all. As you entered, you received an index card to write questions for the candidates. If you have not done so, please turn these cards into the table at the back. Questions will be reviewed and compiled with the most frequently covered topics addressed. We will not accept questions or comments live from the audience. We will only use written questions you've submitted tonight, we've received via Facebook, or those written by the Forum Committee. If there are questions that were not covered tonight, we will post them to the Facebook site that we've created for this event, the 33rd Ward Candidate Forum, and ask that the candidates answer them there. We'll keep this site active with ward news, election news, and events, and we encourage you to share it broadly. Also, for you tweeters out there, we'd love to have you live tweet the event tonight at hashtag 33 Ward Forum. And while we're thinking of it, why don't we silence our phones? The focus tonight is on how the candidates answer questions, not on how the audience responds to them. The audience and candidates are asked to be respectful and civil to each other. We encourage a spirited and open exchange of ideas tonight and ask that the audience refrain from inappropriate shouting, groaning, or booing. Applause should be limited to the candidate introductions and at the end of the event. No signs should be displayed during the forum, and anyone not respecting these rules will be asked to leave. Thank you. We're also providing live Spanish language translation with the help of Bateman Assistant Principal Kathy Trevino-Niffin with headsets provided by our friends at the Logan Square Neighborhood Association. It really did take a village to get this show on the road tonight. The forum is being videotaped by Mimi Productions, and we also have a couple of crews from CAN TV. Please watch our Facebook page for information on when these shows will be available. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for tonight's forum. Dan Ponce is a resident of the 33rd Ward and lives in the boundaries of the Irving Park East Neighborhood Association and is its newest member. Dan anchors the WGN Morning News from 4 to 6 a.m. We're keeping him a little late tonight, and is a founding member of the a cappella group Straight No Chaser. Please let's give a 33rd Ward welcome to Dan Ponce.
Thank you. Well, good evening. How's everyone doing here at 33rd Ward? Absolutely love it here. I appreciate that lovely introduction. I'm impressed that you got my name right. You got my television station right. You didn't confuse me with Phil Ponce, host of Chicago Tonight, or my brother Anthony Ponce on Channel 5. There's a bunch of us around here. We all kind of look the same. We're all on different stations, but I'm Dan on WGN Morning News. So if you watch me regularly, you know that right about now is my bedtime. So we're gonna move this along, keep this short. We're gonna get right to what the candidates have to say, and really looking forward to this. Absolutely love the 33rd Ward. I've lived here since April of last year. My wife and I have a 2-year-old daughter. She turns 2 tomorrow, and you'll probably see me running around Horner Park. And I always run past this beautiful elementary school, and think maybe my daughter could come here someday. So a round of applause for Bateman here, for the staff here, for making us feel welcome. And a reminder, we're all going to watch these answers live, but this is going to be posted online so that you can forward this link and this debate to your friends and neighbors in this ward, those who could not be here tonight. So here's how it's going to work here, candidates. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. Then all the candidates will be given 2 minutes to answer the same question in a round-robin format. The candidates will not be able to ask questions of each other, but I may ask a couple of follow-up questions as appropriate. If you feel like you all are dodging the question here, we're going to get to the, we're going to stop the spin. I'm sure that's not going to happen now. Candidates will then go through a quick lightning round of unique questions, and we'll end with a 1.5-minute closing statement from each candidate. The timekeeper will give a 30-second left and a time's up signal. I think you saw the beautiful, very high-tech there, but it's excellent. After the conclusion here, everyone is invited to stay. You can meet the candidates and some of your neighbors as well. You'll also see me making a beeline for my car as I attempt to get a little bit of sleep in time for my show tomorrow. But let's get right to the what the candidates have to say, and we're going to start with some opening statements. Each of you have 2 minutes. And Tim Megan, we're going to begin with you. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Megan. I am a National Board Certified Teacher at Roosevelt High School, where I have taught for more than a decade. I'm also a member of Albany Park Neighborhood Council, now Communities United, and a husband and father of 2 boys who are 4 and 9 and attend neighborhood elementary schools in the ward. My decision to run for alderman really stems from my experience as a teacher. As a teacher, you know, my students bring a host of social issues into our classrooms that negatively impact student learning. As a teacher, I was kind of limited and confined to what I could do to help my students to my classroom. But as alderman, I can help my students and their families in more concrete ways, such as raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, providing more affordable housing for our neighbors, ending privatization of public assets and services, making sure our schools are fully funded, and ensuring a more democratic and transparent decision-making process both here in the ward and citywide. I was also very active in the school closings fight. We fought, we marched, protested, we wrote letters to the editors, and we did everything possible we could to prevent those schools from closing. But at the end of the day, all of our protests fell on deaf ears. And that was a bitter pill to swallow. And I realized, you know, that the problem is the Democratic machine. The machine controls this town and there's no competition. And as a result, they can take their constituents for granted as long as they get their campaign contributions. So I feel that we need a political movement in this town that is independent of the machine. So as a teacher at Roosevelt High School, I believe I'm in the best position to understand the needs of our working families, and that's why I believe I will be the best candidate for 33rd Ward.
Thank you, Tim. Alderman Denbell.
Thank you so much, Dan. And welcome to the 33rd Ward. We're really happy to have you. And thank you all for being here, and especially to the community groups that really put the effort in to put this together. I mean, look at this. This is like standing room only, and I think it's really important that we all meet and we discuss the issues. So right from the beginning, when I took office, I knew I wanted to commit to 3 big things in my my office. And the first one was to increase communication with the community and dialogue. So we did this by use of social media tools. I have a newsletter that goes out every week. Our website is updated. And we invite community and we have a dialogue and we talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. The second was public safety. It is vital that we feel like we are safe in our neighborhoods, that we can walk to our schools, that we can use our parks. And we've really focused on cracking down on absentee landlords and buildings and businesses that foster illegal activity. So what we do, Dana and I are in housing court, and at the Daily Center and at the administrative building over on Superior, quite often, where we bring people in and we say, you know, it's not acceptable. Your building is not acceptable. You need to clean it up. And then thirdly is foster economic diversity in our neighborhood. So I think it's important that we have a diverse economy. We have restaurants we can go to. We have a new theater coming in. You know, we really need the 33rd Ward to be a destination place where people can live, work, and play. And, you know, I absolutely love being your alderman. I love our ward. And I really look forward to tonight. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb. And Lisa Warner.
Hi, so I too want to thank everyone for coming out on this wintry day to participate in democracy, as well as thank all the organizing groups. They do a lot of amazing things for our community. I'd name them all, but they only give me 2 minutes, so I hope you will accept a mass thank you, as well as the other candidates and Mr. Ponce for coming out and participating. My name is Anissa Wanek. I'm running for alderman in the 33rd Ward. I am a nonprofit management consultant and cross-cultural trainer. I am on the LSC at Albany Park Multicultural Academy. I tutor at the Albany Park Community Center. I'm active in several neighborhood groups. But more importantly, I have 20 years experience working with communities to help them get more out of their government. And I think it's time that we get more out of Chicago. I'm running for alderman because we have leaders that are making irresponsible budget decisions with our tax dollars. And that is resulting in a lack of public services in our neighborhoods, whether it's education, public safety, or streets. As alderman, I'll fight for a more responsible budget that reflects our values. I will work with the neighborhood to develop a revitalization plan for the ward that directs planning, whether it's economic, education, or parks and safety. And I will fight for legislation that makes our government more transparent and accountable. I will be an independent voice for a new Chicago way, and I will bring responsible, inclusive, and accountable governance to our ward and our city.
All right, Anissa, thank you. Okay, so just for those opening statements, that's the only time I really want to hear applause from now. We got to get to these answers here. So if we stop and applause for after every response, we're going to be here all night here. So we appreciate you applauding here after these opening statements. From now, we're going to get down to the questions, okay? All right, so the first question here in the category of quality of life. All of you chose to live in the 33rd Ward. What makes the ward a great place to live? And what 2 things would you do to make it better? Alderman Deb Mell, we're going to start with you.
Sure, it's a great question. So I grew up here. From the age of 0 to 12, I lived at 2800 Diversey, and then we moved to 3600 Mozart. And I currently live like smack dab in the middle of those 2 places. And I wouldn't live anywhere else in the city. I mean, our ward is so rich in diversity and its people that's really the heart of the ward. And then you just throw on Horner Park and all the different restaurants over in Albany Park and all the rich foods, and we have Parachute over on Elston now. But really, it's its people, and it's home. It's always been home to me. I know this ward better than anybody on this stage.
And what 2 things would you do to improve it?
Well, I mean, we're working on a lot of things. Like I was talking about the cleaning up some of these apartment buildings with these landlords that aren't taking care of their tenants. I mean, this is a major issue for me. I really believe that people need safe, affordable, and clean places to live, and that is currently a big task of mine. And then also, increase our economic diversity, bring in more businesses, bring in, and also more
housing, you know, and get more people in the 33rd Ward.
Great. Anissa, one.
So the alderman was born here. Tim moved here for a job. I chose to live in Albany Park, and I also chose it for the diversity. I have a lot of both domestic and international work experience. My favorite thing about going door to door, I've walked the ward almost 2 times now. I speak multiple languages, so I get to practice my Spanish and my Serbian and a little bit of Arabic, although I don't speak that much Arabic. I still get to use what little I know. We have an amazing ward, and that's why I moved here, and that's why I think it's so great. The 2 things I would do, work to improve, I think we need a better effort by our government to include the different diverse aspects of the ward. There is little outreach to the non-English speaking communities, and I am best positioned to take that because they make up a very large portion of our ward. The number of Spanish speakers who, when I speak Spanish to them at the door, get very excited that somebody is speaking Spanish to them at the door I love it because I get to use my Spanish, but it's a little disheartening that they're so surprised that somebody would be speaking Spanish to them. I also think we need to include the community more in planning. As a community organizer, I have a lot of experience working with multiple aspects of the community, whether you're talking about faith groups or nonprofit organizations or business communities, and getting everybody to come together and come up with a future direction for the ward so that we have an actual plan that we can follow in terms of development, in terms of education. And these kinds of decisions, if we work together and set up the structure at the start, will help guide my decisions when it comes to how to spend TIF money, how to spend menu funds, and how to fight for the 33rd Ward in the City Council.
Thank you. Tim Megan.
Thank you. Well, I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, and I did move, I did get a job at Roosevelt High School in 2004, and fell in love with the neighborhood. For me, the diversity is the thing that I love the most. Albany Park, in particular, is where the world comes to you. And you know, our website, our platform is translated into 5 languages. And, you know, when we were thinking about getting the platform translated into Tagalog, all I had to do was turn around and find a former student who could do it for me.
Yep.
And that was really cool. I lived in, at first, north in Kedzie, and then we moved to Humboldt Park. But we chose to move up into this community, not only because it's closer to my job, but this is a great place to send our kids to school and raise our children, and we love it very much. The 2 things that I would do to improve the neighborhood, one of which it has to be affordable housing. The beauty of our neighborhood is its diversity, but that's threatened. And we need to ensure that we maintain the integrity of the diversity in our neighborhood by promoting more affordable housing. Right now, the affordable housing that exists primarily is senior housing, and then the non-senior affordable housing is studio and 1-bedroom places. There's very little for families. The second thing that I would do is introduce participatory budgeting into ward practices. That menu money, you all should be deciding how that menu money is spent, not necessarily me. I think that by expanding community input and the decision-making process, all of us can work together to build a better neighborhood.
Tim, thank you. Our next question here, we're going to focus on some of the new businesses here that are trying to come to our ward and perhaps having difficulty staying here. So obtaining the proper permits and licenses at City Hall can be daunting for new businesses. Established businesses have suffered hard times. How would you help new small businesses in the ward navigate City Hall, and how would you encourage longtime businesses to stay here? And we're going to start with Anissa.
Thank you. So I've had a lot of discussions with small business owners in the ward about these things. They're very frustrated about the number of permits that they need to get, the number of steps that they need to undertake to go through the to get their licensing. I think the most important thing we need to do is start streamlining those processes so you have maybe 1 or 2 instead of 5 or 6. That helps both established and new groups coming up, because that's just, it's a labor intensive to fill out all those permits. One of the things that I think is important is making sure So there's a lot of businesses that are closing because there's not enough money being spent in the ward. We need to make sure that our neighborhood schools are strengthened so that people are staying in the ward, that we have community spaces in the ward where people are going to play. Because when you're spending time in the ward, you spend more money in the ward. Everything I hear from small businesses is that people keep traveling outside the ward. So we need to work to make the ward more attractive so that people are spending money in the ward and keeping our businesses open.
Thank you. Tim Megan.
Thank you. Well, I see it as the responsibility of myself and my office staff to help small businesses navigate that permit process. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm committed to ensuring that this is a step-by-step process that we hold their hand as they try to open a new business. For existing businesses, I think the $15 minimum wage is critical. We have a very densely populated ward, and the fact is lower income folks that work for minimum wage don't save money, and they can't save money. They spend what they have, and they spend it locally. So by increasing the minimum wage, we're increasing the purchasing power of thousands and thousands of residents, and that's going to positively impact small businesses in our community.
Mel, do you support? Excuse me, please. Alderman Mel.
Okay, it's a good question, Dan. We've already cut back on the amount of business licenses there are. We've streamlined that, and we've also put building permits online so the businesses can do that. But you know, 80% of 33rd Ward businesses are 10 employees or less. So small businesses are the crux of our ward, and it's very important that we support them. And my office is absolutely open door policy for anyone who wants to set up shop in the ward. We guide them through the process. And we're also developing a ward plan, which says that, you know, it just kind of tells us about ourselves, you know, and everything is in it, even our, you know, bumps and bruises. And we just really want to know what's going on, what kind of businesses, what's the housing stock. And all this will definitely be informative and beneficial to businesses that want to set up, and we're seeing it. I mean, that's what's really exciting, is we're seeing a lot of cool businesses setting up shop. I mean, on the south end of the ward, we're going to have a coffee roaster come in. We're going to have a furniture resale shop that's moving in. Like I said, Parachute Restaurant, Honey Butter Fried Chicken, a new theater. I mean, it's 33rd Ward's an exciting place to be right now, and people are coming, and it's great.
So we know where Tim Megan stands on increasing the minimum wage. Alderman, where do you stand on that?
Well, I was really proud to vote for the $13 minimum wage increase a couple months ago. You know, it hasn't been done in a long time, and that price or that $13 was set by the Shriver Foundation, which is, you know, like an expert in poverty law, and a task group that came out of City Hall. Yeah, I was really proud to cast that vote. I think it's vital. It's so important.
Anissa, do you agree with that, increasing the minimum wage?
I agree. I get a little concerned when we keep saying that we raised the minimum wage to 13. That won't go up until 2019. It goes up to $8.25, I think, next year. So let's talk about it as what it is. Yes, we raised it, but we need to raise it more.
Jesus, please.
We need to raise it more.
Gotcha, good. All right, moving on here. Following again on the category of Chicago Public Schools, what are the 3 short to medium term things that you would do to improve schools in the ward? So we're talking perhaps in the next year or two, and we're going to start with Tim Megan. Well,
I think, you know, my experience as a teacher has told me that the reality is people don't listen to teachers. Really, in particular politicians. And I think that the first thing that I would do is visit all the schools in the ward, you know, talk to the administration, that's fine, but sit down and have a meeting without the principal present with the faculty and ask them their opinion. Too often, the people that are closest to the children that we serve aren't made part of the decision-making process of how monies are spent, the ways they're spent, what their working conditions are, and how we can, you know, make simple adjustments to improve those working conditions. I also believe that we can spend a few dollars to get assistance for our teachers. You know, like every single department at Roosevelt High School, if we were to have one secretary, say, per department, to run copies, do some of the more mundane tasks, that would free up teachers to be a lot more creative, spend a lot more time one-on-one with the students that we serve, and improve educational outcomes. I also think that we need to abolish the TIF program. TIF siphons an estimated $250 million every year from the Chicago Public Schools. That's money that our schools desperately need. At Roosevelt High School, we've lost $1.8 million in the past 2 years. That translates to 22 staff. In my department alone, we've lost Asian Studies, African American History, Latin American History in a school that's 75% Hispanic, and AP Art History. And that's just my department. So, you know, you can't starve neighborhood schools out and then at the same time place extra demands on teachers and students and expect better results. If you want better results, you have to make sure that the investment is there.
Thank you, Tim. Alderman Mell?
Thanks, Dan. So I would just like to, thank Tim and all the teachers in the 33rd Ward for their hard work and dedication to our students, especially at Roosevelt when they lost, some money in their budget. They really stepped up over there and are really doing a great job. So, I think I've had a couple companies come in my ward office asking to set up new charter schools. I think that's a good place to start, is to not allow any charter schools come into the 33rd Ward. We really need to just, focus on neighborhood schools. Physical improvements. So we were able to secure some funding and do the turf over there at Cleveland School. I don't know if you guys know it, but it was like a big dirt patch, and the dirt was getting in the children's, lungs and causing, especially children with asthma problems. And then just continue to build community around our schools, and just constantly be, promoting them and making people aware of what's really good about our schools. We have a lot of great schools, including Roosevelt. And, I have a really good working relationship with all of them. Yesterday I was over at Lene School at the teachers meeting, and it's the best part of my day, actually, to go and hang out with the kids. So, yeah, those are the three things. I mean, we can always do better. We're doing okay, but we can always do better.
Yeah, Anissa?
So I like the fact that you put short to mid, 1 to 2 years on that. It was a very good way to frame the question. I do think that we need to put a moratorium on charter schools, and so that we can funnel more money to our neighborhood schools. We need to recognize that parks are great, but parks don't teach. We need more money for teachers so we can hire more teachers to get the classroom sizes down, as well as fund librarians. We have a lot of schools that don't have libraries anymore. I also think it's important that we reestablish neighborhood schools as community centers. For those of you that are sitting down, cannot see how this continues to fill up about every 5 minutes. It's actually incredible. And it is so great to see people using the school in the community to work as a community, and I want to see more of that. So there are some schools that hold exercise classes in the evening in their school. Let's do more of that. Let's get people to appreciate their neighborhood schools, and they're going to be less likely to send them away, and they're going to be more likely to fight for funding so that in the long term they can be fully funded.
Thank you. Our next question here is in the category of ward services. Question is, how will you recruit and staff your ward office, and what role will those employees play in working with the community to deliver ward services, engage residents and neighborhood groups, and promote transparency in Chicago government? Danielle, we'll start with you.
Sure. So my office, I have my chief of staff, Dana Fritz, he's right over there with the bow tie and the beard. He's my right-hand man, right? So we go to court together, we, think about legislation, like I said, right-hand man. He's there when I'm not there. I have someone who we just hired who, like I said, is doing the ward plan, and she's also reaching out to all the schools. She's like the school point person. I have a woman who just deals with like ward services, so potholes, graffiti, and tree trimming, all those like 311 requests. And then I have Ryan, who does businesses, so he works with the small businesses and all the businesses in the ward. And he also goes out for Thursdays and Fridays. He goes out and he's like out in the ward, you know, kind of surveying and seeing what needs to be done. So yeah, I mean, I'm really proud of my staff. I hear a lot of good, when I'm out there knocking on the doors, I hear a lot of good feedback. I also have a woman who does all our social media, and she does our newsletter, which I hear is very helpful to a lot of people. So yeah, we have a good staff. We've also increased hours. So we have Wednesday nights from 5 to 7. Every Wednesday the ward office is open. And Saturday morning, the first Saturday of the month from 9 to 12, it's open. And, you know, I'm either in the ward office, in the ward, or, you know, if I have to be downtown. And my office is very open, very accessible. Getting a hold of me or my staff is never an issue. So, yeah, that's how I
Good. Thank you. Anissa.
I just want to clarify, the question is about what I'll do in the office in terms of outreach, or how I'm going to staff it, because that was the
Little
answer.
both. Little from
Okay.
column A, little from
As long
column
as
B.
I can answer both, I can do that
Why don't you
too.
start with how you would staff it?
Okay, well, it's an election year. That's why you guys are all here. There are going to be some aldermen that have staff that are not going to have jobs, and their staff are going to need jobs. I will obviously look at those and get the cream of the crop from that group. I also think it's important to recruit from our neighborhood organizations. There's a lot of people who know the neighborhood better than anyone else, are the groups that have been working in the neighborhoods. I have a degree in public administration, so I'm used to setting up processes with governments, you know, going into a government or into an organization and help them set up the best process for how to deal with issues, whether we're talking about big city issues or whether we're talking about, hey, you know, 311 hasn't fixed my pothole, what can you do about it? I think it's important that we do more outreach. I think it's great that the aldermen brought the 33rd Ward to the 21st century in 2013 with a newsletter, but that's something that was long overdue, right? We need to do more outreach, and we need to do outreach in multiple languages. I think it's important to go to the people and find out where the people are instead of waiting for them to come to you. I would look at mobile office hours during the week and on the weekends. Everybody works a particular shift, and you know, like on the LSC that I'm at, the parents have a hard enough time getting to the LSC meetings because they work so hard. So we need to make sure that you're available at different times of day to fit different people's schedules. And that's the beginning. I'm getting the time, so I will stop there.
Good. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Well, I'm a trained organizer. So the way I see it, my role is to bring together the disparate community organizations as we work towards a common goal. And it's not my job to decide what that goal is. It's the organizations and the residents themselves. But I see my role in my office as being a place where I can bring all these people together in order to improve our neighborhood. In terms of staffing, I believe it's very important to hire bilingual staff. It's important to keep hours into the evenings because people work till 5, 6 o'clock at night. And I also can use the office as a bully pulpit to advocate for issues at the city level within, for instance, the Chicago Public Schools has a monthly Board of Education meeting, right? And regular citizens are allowed two minutes, but aldermen are allowed an extended period of time. So the office can be used to advocate for regular people. You know, there are a host of issues that we're facing, right? Services being one, for example. You know, we have to address the service complaints in a timely manner, and in order to do that, you need to have a group of people that are committed, that are diverse, and get the job done, and get a job done right the first time. What I'm concerned about is the residents who tell me at the doors that their complaints have been dropped, that the office has dropped the ball, and we need to make sure that every single issue is taken care of timely and appropriately.
Thank you, Tim. Our next category here is public safety. As alderman, how would you work with the Chicago Police Department and the commanders at the 17th and 14th districts to help the residents of the ward feel safer? And what strategies do you propose to accomplish that? And we'll start with Anissa this time.
Well, I'm proud to say that I would have been endorsed by both the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 7 as well as the Police Sergeants Association in this race. So the people that keep our streets safe think that I'm the best candidate in this ward in terms of my ideas about public safety and how to get them funded. I think we need to talk about public safety from a short, middle, and long-term perspective, right? From a short-term perspective, we need to talk more with the communities. The CAPS program is great. They have just reorganized so that the districts are meeting every month, which is a good change. They are meeting very far away though, so I'd like to get them more into the neighborhoods for those meetings. People shouldn't have to travel that far to be able to talk to the public safety officers. I think improving communication between the alderman's office, the community, so serving as a mediator between what's happening in the 14th and 17th districts, as well as what's happening in the community. I think that's very important. In the middle term, we need to hire more police officers. From a financial perspective, it's unsustainable. For the last 3 years in a row, we have set an overtime budget and we have gone over it between 150 and 300%. We cannot continue to ask our public safety officers to be working this much overtime. It's not healthy for them. I mean, anybody here that works 60 or 70 hours a week, you start to know, like, hey, this is a problem. You start to make mistakes. We need to hire more police officers so that they're not overworked all the time in that situation. And in the long term, we need to start addressing the root causes of public safety issues and poverty in our community, whether it's education, job creation, we close mental health clinics. These are all things that need to be addressed in both a short and long-term perspective.
Good, thank you. Tim?
Thank you. So I'd like to add on to actually what Anissa said, because crime is an extremely complex issue. And the bottom line is that we're never going to be able to arrest our way out of crime. And I'm really sick and tired.
Hold on, please.
I'm really sick and tired of the oversimplification of this issue because it's insulting, frankly, to the voters' intelligence. The current approaches to crime, I think, are more about creating the illusion of safety than actual safety. And the way that you deter people from engaging in crime is you invest in them. And I know I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, man, that $15 minimum wage is critical. If you provide young people in particular with an outlet, with an opportunity to do right, to be able to support their families, that's what's going to deter crime. And that's something that's really close to my heart because, as a teacher, I've seen it both ways. I've seen both what can happen when you invest in young people. The Bikes and Roses is a great example of a workers' co-op that takes kids in, pays them, trains them in a skill. They leave with a bike mechanic certification, right? And they love it. But I also have seen what happens when we divest in our young people too, when crime becomes the only alternative for them and the streets take over. So $15 minimum wage and youth employment opportunities are my two top priorities in fighting crime, both here in the ward and citywide.
Thank you. Alderman Mell?
Thanks, Dan. So, I too love Oscar over at Bikes and Roses. We try to promote them as much as we can. I sent my old bike there. That is a great example of how youth can get involved and learn skills. And we need to promote more of that. And then also, like I said, we're going after businesses that are fostering illegal activity. I could always tell when we'll just go and walk down the street and go into business and I'll be like, is the owner here? And I could kind of tell, like, if they're like, who wants to know? Or like, yeah, sure, they're right over here. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, you kind of get a feeling that maybe something not right is going on there. And we've closed down a few of those. And I'm really happy with the progress we're making. We have to do more. But also, again, these big buildings that are harboring, like gangbangers, quite frankly. And see, that's definitely something an alderman's office can have a direct impact on, right? So we can't, like, I can't be there in the middle of the night when the tagger goes and the gangbanger, like, sprays the side of the building. But if we know, where they're coming from, then yes, we can do something about that. But I also agree that, crime is a social issue, right? And we need more jobs. Right now the experts say $15 is too much for businesses. And so I don't want to get rid of businesses. I want to create more jobs. I think $13 an hour is a great start. And again, education and commuting and CAPS meetings are really important. I try to get to them as much as I can, me or Dana goes. And just creating a good dialogue between my office and the 17 and 14 and 19.
Good, thank you. Next question here. Has a nice title here, The Chicago Way. Machine politics in the Chicago Way, legendary in this city. How will your office work to break from this influence? Tim, Megan, we're going to start with you.
All right, well.
Hey. I know what it's like to be the offspring of someone in the business, Happens sometimes,
I see. Well, I can tell you, Richard Mell has been alderman here since before I was born. I just turned 39. The former Alderman Mell he pulled no punches when it came to nepotism and defense of patronage and political patronage. In fact, there's a video of him appearing at the hideout bragging, frankly, about how he put kids through college as third shift bridge tenders in the middle of the winter when the river's frozen and there's no possibility of any kind of river traffic. I stand against it. I mean, my father's an architect. I'm not. I made my own way. I think that being transparent about everything that I do is critically important. As an educator, I work with kids, so kids pull no punches when it comes to hypocrisy and things of that nature. It needs to end. It needs to stop. Nepotism and political dynasties in this town are the problem with why we're all so unsatisfied.
Hold on, please. Please save your applause here, folks.
I can assure you that should my son decide to enter politics, I will not help him.
For the record, my dad wanted me to be a musician. He didn't want me to go into television here. And I did that for a while, and I just happened to go into TV. So, Alderman Mell, we're putting you on the spot here. So what do you have to say about that? I mean, your dad is a big deal in this town. Yeah. He has been for many years.
Yeah, and for the record, my father didn't want me to go into politics, just like your father didn't want you to go into television. So, you know what? I love my father. I mean, let's just get it out there. He was alderman for 38 years. But we're different people. I'm not my father. Anyone who knows me absolutely knows that. We conduct business very differently. I am very much of a collaborator with the community. I want to hear from you before I make any decisions. So, for example, there was this a big to-do about this Walgreens, and it was on the corner of Lawrence and Kimball, and my father approved this project, and he did it without asking anyone from the neighborhood. So he didn't talk to Albany Park neighbors, he didn't talk to North River Commission, he just approved it. And his thinking was, any development is good development, right? I don't think that way. I think that our ward is too important to just throw stuff in there. And we really need to have a good dialogue and collaboration with what you want to see on your corner. And so I stopped the project. And that made for a very interesting Christmas, to be quite honest. You know what, and just how, I'm constantly pushing information and transparency is extremely important to me. So we're different people, yeah, I mean, like I said, I love them, but we're different.
Thank you. Anissa?
My father, too, didn't want me to do this. As long as we're all putting it out there, he's laughing in the front row, and my mom's going to start crying because she's laughing so hard. So a friend of mine recently, am running against a legacy candidate. My petitions were challenged in a very typical way, including those of my own sister. And my friend calls me and he's like, is there any more stereotypes for Chicago that you're going to have to face? I mean, like, you're running out of them, right? I think it's important, and I also don't have children, so I also won't pass it on to my family. So I can definitely agree that I'll stop it that way. But like we've made a lot of jokes about this, right? But what nobody has addressed is the fact that our city council has forgotten its legislative oversight powers and responsibilities. We have a city council that, for the most part, we have a city council that the majority of the members do what they're told without asking any questions. And that is a serious problem. I've run into people at the doors and they're like, what do you possibly think you're doing going up against the Mells? Aren't you scared? And I was like, you know what? I spent 3 years in Afghanistan. I've met worse warlords than Dick Mel, so I'm not worried about that either. But it's important, right? I have the experience of standing up for people and standing up for communities to make sure what they want is being heard, and standing up to power and saying, no, this is the right thing to do, and asking questions instead of passing a budget without asking questions, or approving a financial scoop and toss deal without asking any questions. I can and will ask questions, and I have an experience of doing so, and that's how we'll work to break the hold that the machine has over
Okay,
this.
so along these lines here, I need to go down the line here and ask very quickly whether or not you want to see Rahm Emanuel reelected, and if you do not, which candidate do you support? Tim, start with you.
No, I do not, and I support Chuy Garcia for mayor.
Alderman Mel?
I'm focusing on my own race right now, but I do like a lot of the things that our current mayor is doing.
Okay, thank you. Anissa?
So I have a very long experience in public policy advocacy. I will be able to work with whoever is elected. When the mayor was congressman, he was one of my favorite people to bring volunteers and do citizen advocacy to in his offices. I am not supporting him as a mayor. I will not be voting for him.
Which candidate would you support?
Yeah, I've been coordinating with Bob Fioretti's campaign. I think that he has the vision that most closely matches mine.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to your role in the city council here. Describe what your role in the city council would be, or in the case of Alderman Mel, what is, that affect more broader issues in the city. So we're going to get outside of the ward a little bit more and talk about your role in the city council here. Talk about what you envision your role to be in terms of bigger issues, some of the listed issues here: privatization, city finances, red light, speed cameras, things along those lines. We're going to start with Alderman Mel on this question.
Sure. We did a lot of good things. I've been in office for 18 months now, and we voted to create an office of independent financial analysis, which is a great thing. We had it on the state level when I was a state representative. It was a great resource for aldermen to go to get like in-depth analysis of our budgets. I'm also I was on the ARO task force, which is the Affordable Requirements Ordinance, and we are working towards making that more, that will create more affordable housing and make it where developers, right now, a developer can offset their requirement by building in some other neighborhood, but this is going to say, no, you got to stay in our neighborhood and build our affordable housing right here. We did, like I said, we raised the minimum wage, which was exciting. And I'm also focused on whatever like promotes more tourism, and more economic diversity in the city, which I think is important.
Good, thank you. Anissa?
I'm sorry, was it just general? What do you want to do for the
Yeah,
city?
more the broader issues affecting the city outside of the ward. How would you prioritize?
Well, I actually think it's important so the reason I'm running is because we've been making irresponsible budget decisions. Whether it's the TIF program gone awry, whether it's irresponsible privatization, parking meters, red light cameras, the Skyway. That's why I got into this. And I think it's important to remind everybody that the budget affects the ward. You know, these are not separate issues. If there's no money in the city budget, there's no money for our schools and our potholes. So I get a little uncomfortable when we try to separate these two out. One thing I would look at is the transportation, or the privatization, transparency, and accountability ordinance has been stuck in the Rules Committee in City Council for a very long time. That would require a cost-benefit analysis for any privatization, as well as public hearings for any future privatization plans. The TIF surplus ordinance has also been stuck in the Rules Committee for a very long time, and we need to get that out. These are things that get money back into our budget so that we can spend more money in our neighborhoods. And I would also think it's important that we empower the Inspector General to provide proper oversight to the city. Currently, we have 2 Inspector Generals. There's a debate whether there should be 2 or 1, but neither one of them is fully empowered to enforce subpoenas or compel testimony from city employees. With every single time the City Inspector General investigates something, he finds a way for us to make money. Let's fully empower him to do that to the fullest extent, so that we have more money left in our budget.
Thank you. Tim Meegan?
On city services.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would join the Progressive Caucus of Aldermen. I think that they do a good job. I think that they raise a lot of important issues. I think we've lost sight of the fact that City Council should be a place where the vision for our city is debated and discussed, and Rahm Emanuel's agenda isn't just rubber stamped every single time. That, for me, is very frustrating. I believe that the TIF program needs to be abolished. I think it's so corrupt that I don't think it can be reformed. I really don't. And you know, the problem with TIFs is they were originally designed to correct and remedy blighted areas in the city. But what we see is our tax dollars being ported down to the Loop, where they were used to build hotels for Penny Pritzker, who's a billionaire heiress already, or build stadiums for DePaul and hotels and French bistros in the Loop instead of the investment we need in our neighborhoods. I absolutely oppose the red light cameras. I do not love the red light cameras. I think that they're regressive taxation. Even the Tribune did a study that said that they may increase traffic accidents because people are worried about blowing a red light and getting fined. And when it comes to privatization, there is no responsible privatization, in my opinion. When you take something like the parking meters, or our schools, or Midway Airport, which I know hasn't been privatized yet, right? And you sell it. You get a short-term cash infusion, and what you've done is you've sold the future of the city of Chicago out. That's our property.
Hold on, folks. Please.
That's our property, okay? And politicians should not be in a position where they're selling our assets that belong to all of us to a private company so they can make money and then contribute politically to the campaign of those politicians that sold us out in the first place.
Okay, so let's continue to talk about fees and taxes here. The question is, recent Chicago budgets have addressed shortfalls by raising fees and penalties rather than increasing property or sales taxes, but the anticipated pension payments of 2016 will not be able to be supported in this manner. What is your proposal for funding the city government next year? Nisa, we'll start with you.
In the last question, I outlined some of the ways that we need to get more money back into our government by being more efficient. We need to also look at different forms of progressive taxation. I think we need to look at a luxury tax on high-end goods and services, which would not be regressive and affect hardworking families. I would look at a commuter tax for the Loop, or a congestion tax, sorry, for the Loop. I do not support the commuter tax that is being proposed. We need to, it makes me uncomfortable, but there needs to be a very large public discussion on casinos. We lose a lot of money that goes to Indiana on casinos, and that could be brought back to it. We need to have a very large public discussion, because that also, you know, people want to jump on it for revenue purposes, but that can also bring some negative social impact. So we need to have a very large discussion as a community on that. Everything needs to be on the table. You mentioned the pension payments. You know, We are all in this together. Everyone is going to have to put a little in. The unions are going to have to give a little. Corporations are going to have to give a little. The city government is going to have to give a little and stop. I want to reduce the size of city council by half. That would bring $10 million a year in, and I think that's important. And we're going to have to give a little. I do not want it to be property taxes, but everything has to be explored.
Thank you. Tim?
I don't want to raise anybody's property taxes. It really just goes against the idea of creating an affordable, diverse community. We need to abolish TIF so money can be saved there. I support a financial transaction tax on wealthy traders who basically use computers and high-speed internet access to play the market in a way that other folks cannot. That can raise quite a bit of money. The reason the pension payments are so high, of course, is because the state allowed the city to go on pension holiday, and now we're facing balloon payments. I do not support any reduction in pensions whatsoever. It's not the right thing to do to the people who have served our city faithfully for decades.
Folks, hold your applause here. It's not doing anybody favors here.
You know, I believe that progressive taxation, like a financial transaction tax, is critical to raising that money. The folks that destroyed our economy and took the equity out of your homes are the folks that need to pay for the pension payments now, not working class families.
Alderman Mell?
Thanks, Dan. So we're in this mess, right? Because the city is coming out of a major recession, housing crisis, and because, you know, when things were good, right, Mayor Daley gave away a lot of, you know, perks and pension perks and all this other stuff. And I voted for pension reform down in Springfield. I don't believe that we should raise real estate tax either. And I think it's really important that from now on, when we go with our budgets, that we just, so there's not going to be any magic bullet, right? Casinos aren't going to do it. This commuter tax isn't going to do it. Like the Sun-Times said, the financial transaction tax isn't anywhere close to doing it. What we just need to do, and it's going to take a while, right? So we just got to, we all got to like get together and hang in there, and then when we borrow for infrastructure, and we make our city more attractive, and we attract more businesses, and we get more people here. And we're a major city, so we increase tourism, and they come and they spend money here. So, it's, I guess I take a more conservative approach. We just got to keep going. And that's why, it's just, vital that we just, maintain good fiscal footing as we go along.
Good, thank you. So we're going to continue to stay outside the ward here for this next question here. As you know, two museums, the Lucas Museum request in the lakefront and the Obama Presidential Library, two sites proposed, one in Washington Park, the other in Jackson Park, require the city to gift valuable pieces of land to build these museums. What is your stance on these requests, and how do you view your role in the city council on these issues? And we're going to start with Tim Megan.
No, I'm absolutely opposed to surrendering any of our park land for these ideas. First of all, I like Star Wars as much as the next guy. But the Lucas Museum, frankly, feels like it should be in Hollywood, not in Chicago. And so maybe Ari Emanuel should focus on building it there. If they are going to build it here, that's fine, but don't take away our parks. These guys are billionaires, and there's plenty of blighted neighborhoods and areas in our city. They can purchase land pretty cheaply, and they can figure out how to build it themselves. When it comes to the Obama Library, I certainly do want that here in the city. But again, I don't think that we should be giving up parkland for that. That's our kids' play space. That's where we walk our dogs. That's where we already don't have enough. I mean, especially in a densely populated urban area like Chicago, every square inch of that parkland is valuable. And there's blighted areas that can be used on the southwest sides to build a presidential library in a way that will improve the local economies of neighborhoods who desperately need that economic development.
Alderman Mell?
I support both of them. I want both of them here. I think there are so many Star Wars I don't get it, but there's so many Star Wars fans.
You just lost like 10 votes.
I know.
There's a guy like dressed as Darth Vader back there. He's like, what? No, he's not. It's my dad.
I like the first three, but I didn't watch the rest. But But there's so many Star Wars fans. I mean, yeah, we absolutely want this in our city, and to bring tourism. And we need to put both, and then, no question, the Obama Library and Museum has to be in Chicago. I mean, it's ridiculous to put it anywhere else. So we need to put these in places where people are going to go, and that is accessible by public transportation and everything else. And so I did sign on. I mean, I'm a co-sponsor for the put the Obama Library in either Washington Park or Jefferson Park. And what it says is going to be like about 5 acres, and they're going to find those 5 acres somewhere else in the city. But yeah, I think it's an exciting thing for Chicago to have both of those here.
Thank you. Anissa, where do you stand?
I think turning the lakefront is supposed to be protected, so turning that into a private museum, I am completely against. If there's another place in the city he wants to come, that's great. If he wants to take a piece of land for the Lucas Museum and develop it, that's great. But giving him, he's paying $1 a year for prime real estate in Chicago, I think that's completely out of line and irresponsible. In terms of the Obama Library, most presidential libraries bring something to the community. I also want it here. I mean, I don't need to repeat what they just said, why the Obama Library needs to be here. I think the UIC proposal is a better proposal, though, because it takes land that is not being used and converts it into something that the community can use. And that's what we need to be focusing on.
Thank you. Next category here falls in the category of ethics. Do you think merging the offices of legislative and city inspectors general would raise the level of ethical investigations into city council employees? And Anissa, we'll start with you on this question.
I covered this a little bit earlier. I think that it's fine if we merge them. But if we merge them, we need to make sure that the city inspector general, who would be the receiving inspector general, would have the money and the increased staff to take over the duties of investigating city council. We would need to remove the requirement that any complaints have to be signed. Other cities make it possible to do anonymous complaints. So, and if we cannot do anonymous complaints against our city councilors and our city workers, that needs to change. And he needs to be fully empowered to enforce subpoenas and compel testimony. Unless all of those things happen, it doesn't really matter if we merge it or not, because both of them they're chihuahuas, right? Like, the inspector general is supposed to be the watchdog in the room, and what we have we have a chihuahua and maybe a golden retriever. But we need them to have much more power. When I was working in Afghanistan, there is a special inspector general for all of the U.S. government money that's being spent in Afghanistan. I used to go through regular audits to make sure that all the money that I was spent in accordance with the way it was supposed to be spent and in the best interest of the taxpayers. The inspector general should be the scariest guy in the room, and we need to make that happen.
Thank you. Tim?
I agree. The problem here isn't, whether they're merged or not so much as the fact that the Inspector General has no budget and has no staff and has been completely stymied. Here we're looking at a potential campaign finance violation in the 33rd Ward, and who's going to investigate it? And I think that is part and parcel of, the general problems that we have with political dynasties, and the fact that the City Council thinks themselves immune because they can control the purse, and by not funding a budget for the Inspector General, they can protect themselves. That's absolutely wrong. Their control of the purse, the budget for the Inspector General should be removed from control of City Council. It should be completely independent. And that's really, really like the foundation of clean democracy. If you don't have an Inspector General, or you do, but he's a figurehead and has no real power, that's a real problem. We need to fix that.
Thank you. Deb?
Yeah, I agree with combining the inspector generals. I don't believe that it is good transparency or even looks good that the aldermen and their staff have a different inspector general. And, the inspector general does have a staff and there is a budget, but we do need to increase it. And it's very important that that we have a strong Inspector General to just ensure trust with the voters. Down in Springfield, I voted for campaign contribution limits for the first time ever in the state of Illinois. And I also introduced a bill that would say that all people, candidates who want to open up a campaign account has to do like an in-room class and to be taught all this stuff. So, yeah, I support a strong Inspector General, one for everybody.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're going to give you an opportunity to make a closing statement. Before we do that, though, we're going to do a couple of lightning round questions here. We're just going to lighten things way up here and just kind of get to know these folks a little bit better. Take some deep breaths. Y'all did a good job here. So we're going to start with Tim here. We're just going to fire off a bunch of real quick questions here. Number one, what was your first paying job?
My first job,
Yep.
I was a busboy at Rocco's Pizza.
Busboy, all right.
For 2 weeks.
Nice. You're for 2
They
weeks.
fired me
You got fired, huh?
for breaking too many dishes yesterday.
Oh man, look out! All right, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Oh, they're off me?
Yeah, these are all for you.
geez,
These are
Tom
all
and Jerry.
individual questions just for
When
each
I was
of
young,
you.
Tom and Jerry, and when I became older, The Simpsons.
Simpsons. What's your favorite character on The Simpsons?
Oh, geez, I guess Homer.
Homer?
Yeah.
I do a great Homer imitation. Oh, I wanted a peanut! All right, next question here. If you were on an island and you could only bring 3 things, what 3 things would you bring?
Water, a book, and a hammock.
Water, book, and a hammock. Okay, which book?
That's, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shock Doctrine. I'm a big fan.
Nice,
Naomi
okay. All right. All right, sports teams here. Are you a Cubs, Sox, Bears, Bulls, Fire, or Blackhawks, or all the above? You can't choose Cubs and Sox,
Can I
though.
plead the 5th?
Plead the 5th. Wow, dodging the
Sox.
question.
Sorry,
Sox.
Sox.
Yeah. I'm a Sox fan too, baby. South Side. My dad's from Northwest Indiana, so you know we grew up in Wilmette, but you know it's a big mess. Christmases are interesting in our house too. So, okay, Tim. Last question for you. Pick 2 celebrities to be your parents.
I don't know. Jeez. Ava Longoria from my mom. And, oh my gosh. Noam Chomsky from my dad.
Nice. All right. Good. All right, Tim. Thank you. All right, Alderman Mel. 5 questions for you, specifically for you. What is your favorite comfort food?
Ice cream?
Ice cream.
Yeah, well, Ben & Jerry's Froyo, half-baked.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. A good choice. Okay. Which websites do you read every day? And you can't go with anything that ends in .gov. That's just, you can't.
Okay. I throughout the day I visit the Tribune and the Sun-Times.
Okay. All right. Not WGNTV.com? Or...
And WGN. And WTTW.
Oh, yeah. All right, yeah. As long as you didn't say NBC5, though. Anthony, he's fine. All right. What was your favorite book as a kid?
Oh, my favorite book as a kid. Probably anything Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss? Yeah. Nice. What is the longest flight you have ever taken?
I went to Europe. So, what's that, 7 hours?
Okay. Favorite country in Europe?
I really like Spain.
Spain.
Yeah.
Nice. Ponce, Spanish surname. Everyone thinks I'm Puerto Rican, but Mexican. Okay, so last question. On a scale from 1 to 10, rate me as a moderator. I did not write that question.
20.
20, yes. Well played. You made up for the WGNTV.com miss. Okay, Anissa, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, if you could be a professional athlete, which sport would you play?
Oh, like the real football, soccer. Sorry, guys.
Oh, like soccer.
Yeah, I played soccer from the time I was in 1st grade through. I still play.
Nice. All right, soccer player.
Yeah.
Okay, are you a smartphone or a flip phone?
I was watching some old British spy movie yesterday. They all had their razors on, and I was like, I wish that would still.
The flip
I miss
phone's
my
kinda cool.
razor.
Yeah.
I really do.
Right. Okay. Do you sing in the shower?
No.
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 All right.
I sing when I'm cleaning, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sing when you clean, not in the shower. Okay. What is your favorite candy bar?
There's nothing that 2 sticks of Twix can't fix.
Nice. All right.
That's
So you're saying if you're
it's a
elected,
very
free
old
Twix for
friend of
everyone in
mine,
the ward. Interesting platform. All right. And what was your first car?
First one I bought myself, or the first one that was hand-me-down?
Hand-me-down.
Was it the Cutlass?
Cutlass?
I think it was a Cutlass.
Come on, Mom, you know the answer.
It was her car.
All right.
First one I bought was a Dodge Stratus.
Dodge. Old reliable
American
car. All right, thank you for playing along with the fun questions there, okay? Let's get to the closing statements here. You have about a minute, minute and a half each. And Anissa, we're going to start with you.
All right. So I want to thank everyone again for coming out here today, as well as the candidates. I've walked the ward 2 times now, so none of these questions were really new. But it's so amazing for me to see all of you in the same place that you can listen to each other about what's important to each other, because I think we lack that a little bit. I want to take this time to talk about why my background makes me the best candidate for alderman in this race. Every single job I've had has had one of 3 or multiple elements in it. Whether I was organizing communities, making sure that public policy and public legislation reflects our values, or if I was protecting U.S. tax dollars. We live in a very diverse ward. There are over 40 languages spoken in the public schools here. I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience organizing in multicultural communities and can do so in multiple languages. With a 45% Latino ward, I think it's important that we have people that can speak Spanish. More importantly, though, our city is facing a serious budget crisis right now. I am the only candidate in this race that has experience managing multi-million-dollar budgets and doing that to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are spent efficiently and effectively. I am the only candidate with a track record of fighting for responsible, inclusive, and accounted governance, and I will bring that to the ward and to the city.
Thank you. Tim?
All right, thank you very much. And thank you all for coming out here this evening to hear us speak. It's really wonderful. You know, I'm a teacher and not a politician. And I'm entering politics because I see that teachers are under attack and that our students are under attack. And our schools, frankly, I mean, as they are being privatized. I'm the only candidate that stands for a fully elected representative school board. And on February 24th, we really have an important decision to make. Right now we have Rom, Ronner, and a rubber stamp. And unfortunately, Mel votes with the mayor, you know, Alderman Bell, 100% of the time. And I really don't think that that reflects the values of our community. Are we going to have 4 more years or 40 more years of political nepotism and dynasties here in the 33rd Ward? We need an independent political movement, and we need that now. We need to find a way to fight the machine. And that's what I stand for, and that's what I will represent in City Council. And I hope that you will vote for me on February 24th. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb Mel? Hold on, please. Hold on, please.
Well, I too want to thank everyone for coming. I mean, this is really amazing, and I really think we had a really good discussion here. So, you know, my 18 months in office, I really feel like we have a great start, right? We have a great start with community building, with inviting community into the office, making decisions together, which I think is vital. I can't do my job, and I tell people this all the time, if you don't tell me what you need, what's going on in the neighborhood, how you feel about what's going on. So the fact that the alderman's office is accessible and open and we're constantly talking is really important to me. And then public safety. I mean, you know, we need to be able to play and walk to school and feel safe in our neighborhoods. And so we're going to just continue to do that. We are going to go after these buildings and these absentee landlords, and we're going to create a safer environment for us. We already have a relatively low crime rate as compared to other parts of the city, but you know, we can always do better. And then creating a diverse economy is extremely important in the 33rd Ward. So we're just going to, that's why I put down the P Street designation, where it's just going to invite, we want to create more neighborhoods, more walkability, more community. I say more eyes on the street, more boots on the ground, and that will also improve safety. So, you know, I absolutely love my job. I wake up every morning, and the alderman's office is amazing. With the issues that come in, the variety, it runs a gamut. It's always something new, and I am energized every single day when everyone comes in the office and and I absolutely love it. So I really do hope, and I'm asking for your support on February 24th. And let's just continue what we're doing. This is my home, and I want to make it better. So thank you.
Let's have a round of applause for all three candidates. Deb, Mel, Tim, Megan, and Isawana, very nice job.